Welcome to the Culture Shock. Okay, today we're gonna talk about dealing with anxiety. How many of you have ever dealt with anxiety? I'm sure we all deal with anxiety to an extent, or we deal with some kind of problems, but today it's gonna be on anxiety. See, I dealt with anxiety like all my life. Mainly the one that really is probably relevant where I remember was back in high school because I went to a new school. I just finished junior high like the May before, and this is back in like 1999, and I started school that August, and I went to a school, bigger school, and there was more kids. So I was a freshman, and there was a lot more kids. I didn't know probably a lot more kids. The junior high I went to, I knew everybody, but then after that, I went to a place where I probably knew a handful full of people, and so it was a huge difference. And I didn't know why at that time. I didn't know about anxiety, and I didn't know why I was constantly sweating and like dripping with sweat. I put on deodorant and I was still sweating. And this was in the fall, so I shouldn't have been sweating that much. But I didn't know that was anxiety. And I just dealt with it like that probably for the first year. Second year, I got a little bit more comfortable. Third year was really comfortable. Fourth year was, I didn't really notice it as bad. It kind of slowly went away, probably because it was this comfortable surroundings. I think people that have anxiety usually do that with new surroundings. It's kind of like when I first started working, probably anywhere, construction. I remember getting anxiety working at a place called Silver Ridge, then another place called Wendy's, because I didn't know anything. Especially at the fast food joint and at a grocery store, which was probably one of the biggest grocery stores I've ever been in. And that was at a Safeway. And the first day, because before I was just going into smaller offices and even the manager's office. And when I got hired, then when I actually walked away from the floral department, because that's where the office was, it was kind of like behind. You have to go through the floral to get uh, to the store or to the manager's office. When you walk out of the manager's office, you pass the floral, and then I looked up the ceiling. The ceiling was really high, and that's when I got anxiety. Started sweating again. But almost everything I tried or everything I did was that it was new to me was I got anxiety. And what I learned at that point was sometimes you just gotta go through life. It's not a like a tough kind of thing, like a tough man kind of thing. It's just anxiety is part of life. I mean, not everybody has anxiety. I mean, dripping with sweat for almost a year in high school, like that for probably my first year of work, because I didn't want to be fired. Nobody wants to be fired. Maybe, well, mostly everybody doesn't want to be fired unless you're trying to go for unemployment. But I didn't want to be fired. I wanted a good name because I just recently told my boss before that when I got hired that uh, uh, she was like, "Why do you want to work here?" I said, "I want to make a name for myself. I want to make an impact. I want to be the best at my job. I want to prove myself." All that was good in a small office. Then I went into a bigger office or to the store, and I was like, "Oh man, I have to eat my words now." So I want to prove myself though. And once I got comfortable, that place became really comfortable, and I haven't felt anxiety for a while. The next time I really felt anxiety is when I my eyesight started to deteriorate, and uh, it kind of like maybe a few months later, after I stopped working at Safeway, I went on disability. And I remember going into my parents were helping me. I was going into a Walmart, and I just really had anxiety really bad. I started sweating. My sweats were like really really bad. Like now they were starting to come from my neck, and first it was just my face getting red and all that. Then after a while, I was just like sweating all over. It was really bad when my eyesight started to deteriorate. And what I found out, if you know anyone that has visual disability or that is going through visual disability, is that it's the maybe even people that go in the dark. You walk around in the dark, maybe, or if you're blindfolded, it's the fear of the unknown. I think that's what it is. I think that's what all anxiety is, the fear of the unknown. Because you don't know what's going to happen, but most people deal with it okay. But when you're visually impaired or your eyesight is limited or even blind, it's the fear of not knowing what's coming to you, or what you're going to bump into, or it's just you don't know what's going to happen. Now, when you have sight, you can see what's coming, or you can see where you're going. Now, if you know a place really well, then you have to do everything by your memory. Like if you go into your house, and maybe at one point you knew your house, but when you lose your eyesight and you go into your house, and it just becomes a new place. That's how I felt when I went into my parents' house. When my eyesight first had to try to remember every room. But of course the living room was set up different one time. So I was starting to panic and starting to get anxiety. But I say that to say this: we go through anxiety. The best thing to do is focus. Don't panic. A lot of people panic and they just kind of like, I don't know, they go through a different kind of phase. But the best thing to do is not to panic. Kind of like focus and pretty much talk to yourself. Sometimes I'll do it verbally. Like I'll tell myself, come on, you got it, you can do this. You're better than this. Not that I'm arrogant and all that, but then when I accidentally bump into someone, and I'll tell I'm hard on myself, guys, so pardon the next part, but I usually tell myself stupid, 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 like that. And I'll whisper that. But I'm not saying that to the person I bumped into, or like if someone accidentally, like a little kid, but I'm saying that to me. Before I was just trying to feel my way around. Now I have a bit mobility cane, which helps. But we can all overcome things in life. No matter what you have, like if you're going through anxiety, and if you're sweating really bad, just give it time. And people ask me if I take anything for my anxiety, and with drugs I'm more of a straight edge, which means I don't really want to take drugs. I'll take Tylenol for a headache, and I'm not that extreme, but I don't want to deal with things through drugs all the time, because sometimes you don't have that there. Then you get like hooked on that, and every time you have anxiety you use that. But in my life, it's pretty much my dad kind of gave me the suck it up. Or I grew up in the 90s, late 90s into the 2000s, and back then it's kind of like kind of a suck it up and go kind of attitude, and that's what I developed. And when I got anxiety, then uh, it just like it just uh, it just kind of like you just deal with it. And I'm not saying that to be a tough guy. It's just how we grew up in the '90s. I know things are a lot softer. You can't uh, in schools you can't BULLY anymore, and there's a bunch of other stuff like even the online BULLY that But I just wanted to come on and tell you guys that if you have anxiety, just kind of like maybe get used to that feeling for a bit until things kind of until you get used to things, then things will become like in your memory. Say if you're going out in public, you keep going out in public, you just keep doing it repetitious, and it just becomes repetitive in your life. Then you kind of like, okay, I got this. You get a little bit more comfortable. I don't know if the anxiety fully goes away, but you just get used to it, and it just becomes another part of your life. It's like doing a workout. I don't know how many of you work out. I hope a lot of you or all of you, but it's just uh, like when you go through a workout, you don't know what you're doing, especially if you're just new. But once you go through that soreness, the next week and the next week, you get used to it. It's just like that with anxiety. That's how I dealt with it. Even recording my first YouTube video, I was sweating because I never been in front of a camera. That's why my first videos, if you look back to summer of 2022, they were so short because I was starting to get anxiety after that. So I tried to rush the videos. But now they probably go as long as like 8, maybe 7 to 8 minutes to 22, whatever. But whatever, uh, now I'm more comfortable. It's kind of like I'm more comfortable talking to you. I'm more comfortable talking to people. I like talking to people. I like meeting people now because it just became so repetitive in my life that I don't I don't really panic because it's just something I do now. And that's how I saw my anxiety. It's just something I do. It's just something I have. And the worst anxiety I had recently was probably a few years ago. I was looking for an iPhone, and I was with my dad and my mom. And this is back in, I think, the end of February 2022. And they were taking me to Walmart, and my dad was just zooming through Walmart and going, I don't know, it's like I was getting dizzy because he was guiding me with the cart, and I was getting lost, and I was starting to sweat, and but I would tell you guys, that was the last time I had anxiety, but what I would tell you guys is that sometimes we just gotta go through things in life. It's maybe your anxiety, I don't know how extreme your anxiety is. I don't know if you like get in a panic mode. If you have heart conditions, then that probably make it worse. But if you don't have that, then sometimes I heard it's more common these days. But when I had it, I don't think it was as common, or no one really spoke about it, and that's the bad part. But sometimes I'll tell my brother, or like I have anxiety, and I remember when I first had it, I would run to the bathroom and just kind of breathe and kind of like take my breath, like 10 deep breaths pretty much, and try to calm my heart rate down. But some of my family knew about that, so they were kind of more, and even my friends would know that. And like I remember my ex-girlfriend now, like back then she was my girlfriend. I would squeeze her shoulders, And this is before I got my mobility cane, so I'd squeeze her shoulders, and when I had anxiety, and I I didn't like that. So, but squeezing something like that, like someone's shoulders, was very helpful. It kind of took my mind off my anxiety, and like put my hand like just squeezing like a, if you ever had those exercise vice where you just squeeze, that's kind of like how I was doing it, and it took my mind off of things because it put my mind somewhere else because I was squeezing. And you might want to try something. I don't know, maybe put a lacrosse ball. They're kind of like a rubber, not a lacrosse ball, but one of those rubber baseballs that they sell at Best Buy or Dick's Sporting Goods or any sporting good, and you can just squeeze them, and maybe that will help. But another thing you can do is just maybe keep doing what you're doing. Maybe it's your first day of work, first day of school. Maybe just keep doing that, get used to it, and just drink a lot of water, because you'll be, if you're sweating as bad as me, you need more water. But I hope this video really helped. I mean, I want to help guys with all problems, whether it's anxiety. I'll even tell you things in my life that I probably rarely tell people, because I want you guys to grow into places that maybe I wish I made better decisions in. And I'll tell you the mistakes I made in my life, because we all make mistakes, but we can all improve. And that's why maybe some of my stories or my situations will help you guys. But I hope this video helped someone. And if it helped you, or if you know of anyone that's dealing with anxiety, maybe you can share this video with them. But this is the Culture Shock. I'm MR3. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share these videos. And everybody, stay awesome and stay manly.